Hey, I'm Leah Voysey. I play the Clown Cafe singer in Terrifier 2, and you are watching Pop Culture with Pat. And don't forget to drop on by the Clown Cafe.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So today we are headed to the Clown Cafe with my special guest, the Clown Cafe singer herself, Leah Voysey from Terrifier 2. So excited to have you on the show today. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. I have to say, I love your background and all your collectibles that you have. Very cool.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm definitely a big nerd, big horror nerd. So yeah, I'm all
hmm
about that kind of stuff. Which I believe I saw that you're like a big like horror fan as well.
I am, but I keep telling people that I am a huge horror fan, but I also think in some ways I'm a bit of a fraud because I haven't seen a lot of the classics, but I love getting scared so much. Like I don't know, it's the thrill of getting scared and seeing horror films. Like I love it and I have seen a bunch, but there are, all the old like classics I have not seen,
Well,
but I'm
hey,
trying to.
everyone always has to start somewhere. So I mean, that's totally fine. And
Yeah.
speaking of starting somewhere, Lee, I just wanted to start things off to, give a little bit of background on you. Can you just talk about your journey of becoming an actor in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So I started acting, I suppose, when I was like 11 or 12 in community theater. And it sort of started as this thing where I was super introverted and I was just like sitting home playing video games all the time. And my mom wanted something for me to, gain more confidence and make more friends and not sit home all the time. So she put me into acting and I immediately fell in love with it. I loved just like being on stage and I loved singing and I loved playing other people. And so as soon as I started doing it, I actually think my mom maybe regretted putting me in theater classes because she's like, oh no, now she wants to do this really unstable career for the rest of her life. I went to college for acting and I moved to New York and I lived there for 8 years. And right now, I mainly work as a voice actor, small projects, like not a ton of big stuff, not this huge glamorous life at all. But I've also through living in New York and auditioning, made amazing friends and amazing, been able to meet other really great creative people, which is how I got involved with Terrifier 2.
I was gonna say, and then now we get to Terrifier 2, which it's just like insane how big this movie has gotten, from having,
Oh
if
yeah.
I remember correctly, like the budget was like, 250,000. So small, like little like indie film, and just like it's made over $10 million, over the past like several weeks being in theaters. So how did you kind of mention a little bit about it there, but like how did you get involved with the film? Had you like seen the original film before you got involved with this?
Well, first I want to say like the success that Terrifier has had is the fans. Like that is the fans and that shows the strength of the horror community and I'm just like totally blown away by that. But the way that I got involved with Terrifier, I hadn't seen the first one. Well, I think I watched the first one before I auditioned because I knew Fuzz on the Lens, who were the producers of Terrifier 2. I had worked with them on a project that my friend and I had written. We have a film company called Late Bloomer Pictures, and it was the first project that her and I had gotten produced, but we weren't working under that name yet. And we had hired Fuzz on the Lens, Jason Levy, Michael Levy, and Steve Delasala, and some other people that they work with to work on this project with us. So when the Terrifier 2 casting went out, because we knew that they were going to be involved with that, I had submitted actually, or I had gotten auditions for Allie and Brooke. Were originally the parts that I was going out for. And I didn't end up getting those. And then, like months later, Jason reached out to me again and said, I know you sing. We have this other role. I'd love to bring you in for that. And that was the Clown Cafe. And I just think it all worked out the way it was supposed to. And I remember like watching the film and being like, yeah, I know I didn't get Brooke and Allie. Those were not my parts. Like this was my part. Like this was definitely where I was like supposed to be in this film. And I just like feel so lucky that Jason thought of me and like brought me back in for that one too.
That's cool, yeah, having that connection. But I mean, you guys, honestly, everyone in the film was excellent.
Oh
And
yeah, perfectly casted. Everybody was incredible.
did you for your audition, did you have to sing the Clown Cafe song or?
I did sing the Clown Cafe song, and then I did the little like monologue that she says, like speaking of surprises, kids, like I had to do that. But I really like had no idea what it was like because seeing Terrifier 1 and then getting this audition, I was like, what is this scene? Like, how does this fit in? I'm so curious. I'm so excited to like see it all together and see like what Damien's genius brain like came up with. And
Yeah.
then upon seeing it, I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is like really memorable, really epic. And I'm like, yeah, it was a cool scene to be a part of.
And probably should have said this in the beginning of the interview, but as we get into a couple of the other questions, we will be talking about spoilers. So I mean, if you guys, most of you guys, if you're big horror fans, you probably have seen the film already, but if you haven't, definitely check it out. I believe it might still be playing in some theaters, but I know it's
It
on
is.
streaming for
Yeah.
sure.
It's still in
Um,
theaters, which is wild.
yeah. So definitely, if you haven't, check it out. Come back, watch the rest of this interview because we're gonna get into a little bit of spoilers here. So speaking of, so you got to play the Clown Cafe singer, but then you also got to play the nurse at the end of the film in like the mid post credit scene. So did you know that you were going to be getting that second role like when you initially auditioned for the film, or is that something that came along afterwards?
No, that was not at all a part of like my original casting. That so the Clown Cafe scene, it took us about a week to film. And the day that we ended filming was actually the day that the lockdown started in New York. So I drove back. We were in upstate New York. I drove back to New York City, and then that was the lockdown. Like I lost my job on the drive back home. Like that was like we were all up there. There's like no service. We none of us have like any idea what's going on. We're like the world is ending, but we can't get in contact with anybody. Like what's happening? I drive back home, and then I'm in my apartment for like months and months, months, and then I just think through the pandemic and having like the time to think and the time to like rework some things. Like I actually think like through the pandemic, even like Allie's scene got changed, like her death scene got changed and like things got added because Damien was just like sitting at home editing and like thinking of new things that he could add because they weren't done filming yet. And that was when he contacted me and he's like, I've got this great idea. We have this scene at the end of the film. I'd love to bring you back for it. And I was like, yeah, 100%. Like I'll be there. So
Yeah, so
that was
it's
just like
not
a lucky surprise. That was really exciting.
yeah, it's not too often that you get to play two different completely characters in a film. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, obviously with the pandemic and everything was, a lot of people went through a lot of, shit
Yeah.
during that time, but in some ways for some people I think it almost was a blessing in disguise because like you said, people got to work on, different scenes and
Yeah.
retool things for like the film.
Well, the way that
So
I look at the pandemic, like overall, is like you can't change it. And like so many horrible things happened during that time. And it was such a difficult time for everyone. It was like we were all sort of like in this together of like getting through this really just crazy, crazy time. But like, since you can't change the negative, like there's nothing you can do with that. All you can do is like spin it into a positive is how can I grow from this? How can I be a better person? How can I make my projects better? And I think that Damien really took that time and came up with some really great stuff because he didn't just like sit around waiting till they could come back and film. Like he was sitting home and editing and getting everything together and like really figuring out now that I have all this extra time, how can I make this better? How can I change things? And I just think that like the product we got was like flawless. It was so
oh
good.
yeah, no, the film was amazing and just such a wild ride. Getting to see, I was glad that I got to see it in theaters. I was a little worried at first when it initially got released because I was like, I'm in New Hampshire and sometimes we don't always get like some of the limited releases. Like I'll have to like
Mm-hmm.
drive like a while. So I was like, oh, I really hope this is going to be something that gets released nearby. And it initially got released at a theater that's like half an hour away. So I was like, yep, I'm totally
Oh, that's
driving
not bad.
there. That's not
Yeah.
bad. But then it actually ended up coming closer. It came to like a theater that's like 10, 15 minutes from my house. That's when I knew I was like, wow, this movie's like really blowing up because it's coming to some of these other theaters that usually don't carry some of those films.
Yeah, that
Um,
was the same thing that happened with me was initially I think I drove about 30 minutes. Well, I saw it like in New York. We did like a whole premiere like the day before it released. Then I went to a theater about 30 minutes from where my parents lived. So I was like staying with them for a week. And then it opened in the theater that like I went to as a kid. And that was
Oh,
just
that's
like
cool.
such a fun experience of like going to the theater that I used to like, be a little hooligan when I was like 14 years old, like going to the movies and then like leaving halfway and like, just like hanging out at the mall with my friends. And then like now as an adult going back to that theater and getting to see a movie that like I'm in was really just a surreal experience and really cool because it's the first feature I ever did. It's definitely the first film I've ever had in theaters, so it was cool.
Yeah, that must have been a really, and it makes it extra special being, that it was in that like that theater that
Yeah.
you went to growing up. So, and one of the most important questions that I'm going to ask you today, Leah, is that how many times have you been asked to sing the Clown Cafe song since the film has come out?
Oh gosh, so much. And people, like so many people are like, oh, if you're going to conventions, are you going to sing it? Which the answer is yes, I will be. But like that's why I did the cover on my YouTube channel of the Clown Cafe because so many people were like tweeting at me, like, oh, it's not on Spotify, it's not on Apple Music. And I was like, well, if you guys want to hear it, like I'll deliver. Like I will
Yeah.
definitely sing this for you guys. But I'm constantly singing it too. Like people are like, oh, thanks for the earworm. Thanks for the earworm. And I was like, it stuck in my head too. I'm pretty sure like the last thoughts I was having, like when I was falling asleep last night, because I knew we were doing this morning, I was like singing the Clown Cafe just subconsciously. It's just always in my brain. Like it's in my head just as much as it's in anybody else's head.
It's just like permanently going to be seared in your brain for the rest of your life at this point.
Always. I'm fine with it though.
Yeah. No, and by the way, guys, make sure if you haven't yet, make sure to go to Leah's channel and check out the cover that she did. It's awesome. I'd watched the video myself, so definitely make sure you go check that out. The Clown Cafe song, it's definitely one of the more, I think, like trippier scenes in the film, and I definitely got a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street vibes from it, just where it's kind of like the dream sequence. Can you talk a little bit about, filming that whole scene? And we kind of like mentioned it a little bit, but just like what went into that, and were you involved at one point when your character gets set on fire? Obviously, did they have like stunt people come in? Like what went into filming that like whole scene?
Yeah, so that was filmed up in like a warehouse in upstate New York. And it was actually cool because some of their other sets were there as well. Because I think a lot of the sets were like just actually people's houses, but some of the sets obviously had a lot of terrible things that happened to them. And I don't think they could do that in people's houses, like Allie's bedroom and Sienna's bedroom getting like set on fire. So those are all connected. So you had like the Clown Cafe led into Sienna's bedroom, which like led into Allie's bedroom. So I saw Allie's bedroom. It was like covered in blood. They're like, oh, wait till you see what happened here. I was like, I'm excited. But yeah, it took us about a week to film. It was so cool the way that they set it up. Like someone had painted a giant mural. They had like the big truck that the food truck, I guess it is, that art comes out of, and like the swing set. So it was cool, like before it got all bloody and crazy, seeing the way it was set up I mean, it looked like a kid's TV show set, which is what it was supposed to look like. It really gave us that vibe. And I think they did a great job with that. And yeah, it was about a week to film, but they did bring stunt people in for the fire because I'm not trained in stunts at all. Yeah, I was like, you could set me on fire. It's okay. But they said, no, we got to get a real stunt person in here. And they actually had to get the entire fire department there too. So
Yeah.
because like it had to be, totally regulated, totally safe. So the whole fire department from the town was there. They were super stoked. Like they were excited to be there. And I came on set that day because I wanted to see it. I wanted to see like the
Yeah.
fire. And it honestly scared me because basically what she has to do is like she does her movements, and then when she's done she like planks down, and then when she planks then they just like you know
Hose her out.
not hose her down but like fire extinguish her, I
Yeah.
guess. And the first time she fell, my heart like leapt out of my chest because I was like, oh my god, is she hurt? Like it was scary. And so props to any stunt person out there doing stuff like that because that's like crazy. Like I would be too scared to be set on fire, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I've had people like on the show before that have done stunts and just like dealing with actually with fire too, and just like how there's certain ways that you have to like in the scene that I was talking to James Jude Courtney who plays like Michael Myers, like talking about how the like basement was set on fire in certain ways, like you have to like breathe a certain way, stand like very still because there's smoke and everything going around. So yeah, I imagine where you said like you don't have any experience with stunts, getting to see one done in person for the, was this the first time ever seeing that like in
Oh yeah,
person for you?
something like that. That I've never seen anything like that before. That was so cool.
Yeah, that must have been a fun experience. And you have David Howard Thornton, who I consistently hear he's one of the nicest guys that you can meet. He's playing this creepy psycho clown who's quickly climbing up the ranks as one of these horror icons. Art the Clown, what was it your experience like working with him? And did he ever break character like in between takes?
He, yeah, like when he was in costume, he did like break character for sure. Like he was just, hanging around with us. But there were times where he was just like fully in character. So like sometimes like he'll just like show up behind you and like be creepy and you're like, what's up, Dave? So he definitely does some of that too, like joking around, like pretending and like staying in character. But working with him was great. And like everyone on set is super professional, but he's so fun. And we so I actually was in Mexico for a vacation before filming this. So normally I would have, because I lived in New York, I would have just driven up to where we were shooting, but I flew in. So me and him flew in kind of at the same time and got picked up at the same time. So that was like my first time meeting him. And just like that drive back, him talking about being a part of Terrifier 1 and the fan response and whatever, like yeah, it was really cool. Like I'm glad I got to do a scene with him and with Lauren was in that scene too. So like getting to meet them and getting to work with them was awesome. And yeah, everyone on set is great. Like it was just like making a movie with my friends is what it felt like.
Yeah, I know I always, ask people that, where you have like a character or they're playing like this character that's just like, supposed to be like this murderous clown or whatever, but then you have someone who plays that character and they're just like the nicest person, and getting to hear
Oh
that kind of
yeah.
behind the scenes, how they interact with you guys. And did he ever like, I know you said kind of would come up and like creep you guys out. Did he ever actually like scare you when he was in his outfit?
I know. I see clowns don't do it for me. They used to, for sure. But I have this thing where it's like if something scares me, I have to like overcome it. And so like I mean scary movies in general I used to be terrified of. Like the first horror film I ever saw was Poltergeist and it destroyed me. Like it was just like the scariest thing ever. And Chucky was another one that really scared me as a kid. And that's sort of like a clown-ish vibe too, like creepy doll. He's got like that clowny sort of thing. And I was just
Yeah.
scared of clowns for like ever. But now, no, they don't do it for me anymore.
You're like, nah, I'm
No,
desensitized to
I'm
that kind of
over it.
stuff.
Yeah.
You're not scary anymore. And I was curious because I saw that you're a cosplayer. So when it came to the outfit for the Clown Cafe singer, did you have any kind of input as far as like what the costume was going to look like, just where you do have that background as a cosplayer?
No, absolutely not. I am a cosplayer, but as far as that goes, Olga Turka, who was the costume designer, her and her mom, I think, made that costume. And I think that their inspiration that Damien gave them was the big comfy couch, I think was the
Okay.
inspo for
Yep.
that. So I didn't, but as a cosplayer, I really, really want to make the costume myself because I'm more of like when it comes to like my costume making, like everything I do is sort of derivative because I'm making something that already exists. Like I don't really make stuff like out of my brain when it comes to cosplay, but I do sometimes like to put my little spin on it. So I kind of had this fun idea for making that costume if I did it in like the style of Art the Clown. So I did like a black and white version
That would be
of the
cool.
Clown Cafe singer. So that's in the works for me. And I also really want to make Sienna's costume. Like so that would be
Oh
the
yeah.
craziest costume I've ever made. I've never done anything with that much like armor because armor is like pretty difficult to make. And
Yeah.
I've made like armor pieces before, but I've never done an entire costume that's like fully armor. And so that's one I would love to tackle as well, but I know it would take me like forever.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I go to different like Comic Cons and stuff like that, and I've done like a little like I would say very light cosplaying, like because I see some of the people that put in a ton of work into their outfits and stuff like that, and I know that I'm like nowhere near some of these people's like levels. So it's like I definitely I dress up, some of the characters, but it's like for the most part, it's kind of stuff that I like buy and just like put together or whatever, like mask, whatever, different things like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I can't imagine like, but yeah, I'm honestly surprised that you haven't already like made the outfit for the Clown Cafe singer.
No, well, my thing is like through all of this, like Terrifier coming out and stuff, I was moving. And so I would, when Terrifier came out, like I moved like 3 days later. So as the hype was building, I was in a car for like 7 days, like driving from New Jersey to Las Vegas, where I live now.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had put cosplay on the back burner for a while because I knew I was moving. I didn't want to like buy a ton of new stuff. But now that I'm like settled, it's definitely something I'm
Start
trying to get
working
back
on.
into and start working on. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, that would be,
absolutely.
and if you're going to be doing, conventions, that would be, I know a lot of places, or I've seen a lot of cons, they do like in costume photo ops. It would be
Hmm.
really cool if like at some point they got you guys all from like Terrifier. You had like David in like the art costume. I don't know if like if Lauren would be interested in doing the Sienna costume because I think from what I
Yeah.
heard she doesn't really like or it's not super comfortable to wear.
Yeah, I feel
Like
like
your
for
outfit.
her, I would say like I mean, I'm not going to speak for her, but like I would worry for her if she was doing that costume like at a convention just because like I'd say for the most part the community has been very
Yeah.
supportive. I've had to block some people and I know that like she's getting it a little worse than I am, like 100% getting it way worse than I am. I've only gotten like a few like creepy things here and there. So for
Yeah.
her, I don't know if she would do it, but like I would probably do it. I haven't been signed on for any sort of like photo ops, but like yeah, that's definitely something I would be interested in.
Yeah, just because yeah, it's one of those things that you're starting to see like more of that. I noticed at like some of the conventions, but
I
yeah,
know that
obviously,
Dave does it for sure.
yeah,
He does in costume photo ops.
yeah. I'm definitely hoping that yeah, you guys like come somewhere close to like the New England area in the future because it'd be fun to to meet all you guys and get
Yeah.
like the one with like David for sure in the art costume. Yeah, so it's no secret that obviously the film it's been like a huge hit. You guys have gotten praise from Stephen King, from Mike Flanagan. I saw
I'm gonna
Lauren
melt.
retweeting the thing about Mike Flanagan and wanting to like work with her, which is just like
Yeah. Oh
insane.
my God. Yeah.
What's the reaction been like for you, I guess like on like a personal level, and what's been the craziest thing that you've seen so far from the community?
Well, the Stephen King thing is the craziest thing. And I know, like, you know, I don't know, like it just Stephen King having seen something that I worked on and like that all of us were a part of. I literally don't even care if he doesn't remember me or like totally forgets about my existence. Like he saw something I was in. Like I Stephen King is like the horror I like he is such an icon in the horror community, especially with his books. And I'm like an avid reader and I've read so many of his books. It was the first book that I read. I like remember reading that and remembering like how it made me feel. I think like The Stand is one of my favorite books, The Shining, Misery. Like I'm obsessed with Stephen King. And so just like that was such an honor that he saw it. Like that's wild. Like I can't think of anything crazier that could happen than like Stephen King seeing
Yeah,
seeing Terrifier.
that's like definitely like the the stamp of approval, like him. And then yeah, like Mike Flanagan, he's like
Yeah.
Mike's definitely like one of my, as far as like directors go, he's like one of my favorite directors in like the horror community.
Hmm.
So just like seeing those two things, it's like yeah, you guys, I imagine seeing that the tweets and stuff, just being like what like is this
Yeah,
thing really
seriously.
happening?
And like whenever Lauren ends up working with Mike Flanagan, because I mean, he says he wants to and he'll make it happen. I'm just excited to see whatever that is because that's also just wild, like so, so cool. Yeah, I mean, just for me, like the general fan reaction has been just really cool for me. And it's been fun, especially connecting with people through my Twitch channel. I've had a ton of fans coming over there and chatting with me. I stream like twice a week, which was something I hadn't been doing for a while, like while I was moving. And I just got back into it like 2 weeks ago. And just getting to talk to fans that way has been super fun, just totally unfiltered Leah that they're getting on my Twitch channel.
Yeah, which is fun. Yeah, and it's cool that you're able to do that, willing to do that, connect with the fans.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess this kind of like ties into what we were kind of just like talking about. But um, for me, this is going to be one of those movies, one of those horror movies that's going to be talked about for a while.
Hmm.
Years, decades. Has that kind of like hit you yet? And how does that feel knowing that you're part of a film that's going to have a legacy like that?
I feel like it like comes in waves where like I like realized that, and then it kind of like goes away, and then I realize it again where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, we're all a part of just like horror history at this point. But I think it'll really hit me when I go to the conventions, because I haven't been to one yet. So I think once the conventions start up for me, that will really
Yeah.
make it feel as real as it is, you know?
Getting to actually see it in person. Yeah, because
Yeah.
this is one of those things where it's like, I mean, and you know about it, that all the people feigning and throwing up like in the theaters and stuff like that. I feel like we haven't. I mean, I'm trying to think of the first film that comes to mind, which is back in like the 70s, but The Exorcist,
The
when
Exorcist,
people
yeah.
were freaking out, about that. So just like it's been such a while since we've had a film that, I mean, because you certainly had things like, the Blair Witch Project. I mean, this is like another one where people thought that was a real thing, Paranormal Activity, but it's been a little while since we've had a film where it's like it just kind of hits that pop culture zeitgeist, and like everyone, they
Hmm.
hear about this and they're like, people are throwing up and like passing out in the theaters. Like, I have to go see what this film is all about.
Yeah. I mean, even the fact that like radio stations were picking it up and like talk shows were talking about it, like big people were just like talking about us. And it's like we're just like normal people. And like, and now we're in this crazy film that is get, and especially I feel like in the slasher community specifically, I feel like it's been such a long time since there's been like a new
Yep.
icon. And even just like being a clown, I remember like Damien had said something about someone urging him against his villain being a clown, back when he was doing Terrifier 1. And he just had this inkling that like clowns were coming back because like it was coming back around that time. But like it's not a slasher, and it's also not
Yeah.
a new icon. Like obviously it's played by a new person and it's like a whole new spin on it, but it's not like totally new. Like that's something that's been around for a long time. So Terrifier, I just think just like really spoke to a lot of people in the community that were just like looking for something like fresh and new. And I think the best part about Art is how inventive he is with his kills. Like
Oh, yeah.
every kill is different. And so it gives you that like that clown vibe and that like showmanship and this performative aspect of like, ooh, what's he gonna do next? Which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, for art, I've mentioned this too, and I think I like mentioned it in like my review of the film, but mentioned it to like some of my friends where it's like, if I was in a horror movie, I would rather be killed off by one of these people like, Michael Myers, Jason, or whatever, because at least with them that you're most likely going to go pretty fast.
Yeah.
Where when it comes to art, like, yeah, he'll kill you, but like he just like keeps on going. Like, even after, like, obviously with like Allie's scene, and like something about that just like really freaks me out. So
Oh yeah.
I'm
In
like,
Allie's
yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah. In Allie's scene, when she moves and you think she's dead and she moves, was the most shocking moment of that movie. I
Yeah.
I audibly gasped so loud of like that was sick.
Yeah, I
Sick as
was.
in cool and sick as in sick.
Yeah. No, I'm watching it for the first time in the theater, which the theater was like packed, which was really fun to see it, with a crowd like in person. But seeing that scene for the first time, I'm pretty good when it comes to the gore and stuff like that. But like seeing that bedroom scene, it's just like holy shit, like what is
Yeah.
going on here?
It was a lot.
So
It was a lot.
so that was pretty wild.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know. So you mentioned you stream, and you're also part of a podcast called It's All Geek to Me, and you have a film company called Late Bloomer Pictures. Can you just, talk a little bit about those things?
Yeah, so on Twitch, I'm on there Mondays and Thursdays, and we stream horror games specifically. I'd say my main type of game is what like Supermassive Game does, and that their Supermassive Games is Until Dawn, The Quarry, or like their big games. So they're essentially like story formatted games, choose your own adventure. You're basically like making choices that either will save your characters or kill them. I kill them a lot because I'm terrible at video games, but it's fun. I love games like that. Like it's fun. It's because it feels like you're just like watching a movie with the chat, but then they're like, we all get to kind of decide how the outcome goes. So that's
Yep.
my Twitch channel. Leah underscore the princess is my username there. And then for It's All Geek to Me, that is a podcast I do with my friend Kelly. And it's essentially me showing her nerdy franchises for the first time. So for season 1, we went through the Lord of the Rings. And for season 2, right now, we are doing Star Wars. And that has just been so fun. We've had such a great reaction to the podcast. Like, yeah, that's been really good. It kind of took off pretty quickly, and we're doing good with that and enjoying that immensely. And then Late Bloomer Pictures, I said we had done a short. It was a short little web series that we released on the Fuzz on the Lens YouTube channel because that was before we were working under Late Bloomer Pictures. But now that we're currently in post production of our debut short film called When It Pays, which focuses around a girl coming home for the Passover holiday. And she has a big secret that she's kind of debating whether or not she is going to tell her family. And Late Bloomer Pictures as a whole is a woman and queer led production company focusing on telling queer led stories, but also kind of shying away from coming out stories and just like showing queer people as more than just their sexuality, as more than just their coming out stories and just, their life experiences. So I'm really excited for that film. I star in it and I was like the head writer on it. So I don't know when it will be coming out. I think we're going to be trying to run like festival circuits with it in 2023. But yeah, we have a website, we have an Instagram, so we post updates about it.
Yeah, guys, definitely make sure to go check that out, Leah. I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of, exciting things, fun things going
A
on.
lot.
So you're definitely busy. I appreciate you, talking about those things because I saw those and I definitely wanted to give you a minute to just kind of, speak on those couple things. So thank you so much. And hey, again, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule because, again, as you can see, you are very busy. So I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on the show, talk a little bit about your career and about the film. And yeah, you're welcome back anytime in the future.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Hey, I'm Leah Voysey. I play the Clown Cafe singer in Terrifier 2, and you are watching Pop Culture with Pat. And don't forget to drop on by the Clown Cafe.